Welcome to All Pro Football Data. My name is Jim Coburn. In today's episode, we're talking about Johnny Wilson, wide receiver out of Florida State. We've been looking at him in terms of his data profile to kind of see where he projects at the NFL level based on athleticism data, production data, and other sort of things like that. Wilson was second team All ACC in 2022 and third team All ACC in 2023. And let's get started with his profile, guys. So, first off, looking at offensive market share production scores, pause the video real quick so you can kind of see how we get these numbers. But based on his offensive market share, not that great. 46th percentile in terms of his receiving market share, 38th percentile in terms of total offensive market share, and then 31% percentile in terms of touchdown market share. All his numbers are below average in terms of his market share production data. Moving to his efficiency scores, you can learn more about how I get these numbers here. But when you look at his efficiency scores, he did have good efficiency. His yards per reception was near the 90 percentile. Not quite there, but definitely kind of the 89 percentile for that. And then his touchdown percentage, or touchdowns per touch, was above the 60 percentile in that particular area. So he was pretty efficient with the football in his hands. He just wasn't very productive, if you will, for his level, for everything really. Now, in terms of athleticism testing, so this is the biggest reason why I did this video is because he tested really well as an athlete. Based on his size compared to wide receivers, he had a 95 percentile explosive lower body strength score, 82 percentile in terms of speed, and then 90 percentile in terms of flexibility for his size. All those numbers are fantastic for any wide receiver to have, if you will. Some people have said that they might want to move him to tight end because of how big he is and his size and his athleticism traits, which I don't think would be a terrible idea. But again, I think his production was definitely low, and there is sort of the thinking that, okay, well, if he didn't put it together at wide receiver, maybe if you move him to tight end, you can kind of get something going there, I guess is the best way to put it. But regardless, he is a very good athlete. It's just his production doesn't really do much for him in that particular area for that. Now, when you look at his adjusted production scores, adjusted production looks at his age, his level of competition, the team that he was on, how good of a team he was on, because he was on a pretty good team at Florida State. And based on those numbers, he had a 39 percentile age score, 65 percentile MSA score, and 63 percentile in terms of his pass score. All those numbers pretty much are in that equilibrium of potential starter status, if you will, for him. So kind of bottom end starter area, not quite in the All Pro or Pro Bowl area, but they definitely are in that sort of starter range, if you will, for most NFL starters. So that's one positive that you can say about it for him. Now, when you get to his comparables, these are all the wide receivers that tested very similar to Johnny Wilson based on his production profile and his other sort of, other traits. Guys like Auden Tate, Deion Kane, Beanie Fowler, Louis Murphy, Chris Saunders, Jalen Camp, Jalen Marshall, McCole Hardman, Bryce Treggs. As you can see, most of these prospects are backups. And that's kind of the reality when we get into as low of a production trait as he had, is there's mostly backups here than anything else. In terms of an outlook for Johnny Wilson, Johnny Wilson profiles as a backup to outlier Pro Bowler long term. He has size and elite athleticism traits. Some want to move him to tight end, but he could play both. He has a unique profile in this class and could become a unique weapon in the NFL. The only thing is that he didn't really do much with the tools that he had. So again, when you think about a guy like Johnny Wilson, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, when I looked at Johnny Wilson from just a size perspective and looking at his film, he reminded me a lot of Mike Evans. He really did. But the difference being that he doesn't quite get those. I mean, in terms of the situations that he was put in, he doesn't quite produce at the level that Mike Evans did. He's not quite as developed as Mike Evans, and he is older. And those are the main concerns that I have with him. It's just that, he is an interesting prospect. There's a lot of positives about him that you could point to in terms of his size and his athleticism traits. But when you look at his production, you look at the fact that he was not that great in terms of touchdowns. You would think a guy this size with this much athleticism should have been, at the very least, a touchdown maven. The one thing about, say, Jimmy Graham, for example, in Miami, is Jimmy Graham wasn't that productive at Miami, Florida, but he had a fantastic touchdown percentage. Every time you gave him the ball in the end zone, he was coming down with a touchdown, is what you could say. You can't say the same for Johnny Wilson. So those are the main concerns to me is, yes, he has size. Yes, he has ridiculous athleticism, but his production, in terms of his holistic production, everything all together, just wasn't really getting it done for him. So I think from that perspective, you might want to buy low on him if you want the next level. There definitely is some upside, athletic upside to him, but I think it's a huge risk for him to become anything more than, say, a backup in many ways. With all that stuff out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching. Of course, my name is Jim Coburn. You can follow my other work at Geometrics on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can also check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/jcoburn. Also, check out my, like, comment, and subscribe so you can get more videos like this in the future. And I thank you guys so much for watching the channel, supporting it, sharing it, doing all that stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.